You're listening to Shows That Shaped Me, a podcast by What's on Stage. This week's guest is the WhatsOnStage Award-winning actor Trevor Dion Nicholas. Born and raised in West Virginia, USA, he made his professional stage debut in a touring production of Big River. His subsequent stage credits include Superfly the Musical, Ragtime, Into the Woods and The Wiz. In 2016, he crossed the pond to make his West End debut as the Genie in Disney's Aladdin, for which he won the WhatsOnStage Award for Best Supporting Actor. He's also the voice of the announcer in the West End production of Dreamgirls at the Savoy Theatre, and away from theatre, Trevor is the songwriter and lead vocalist of the alternative indie soul band Neighborhood Goliath. Here is Trevor Dion Nicholas.
The most memorable production of my career up till now, besides the obvious of Aladdin, which has been honestly a dream come true, but the most memorable would have to be the production of Big River that I was in the United States. I did the national tour of Big River when I was 19 years old. Turned 20 right after I got back home. I left school for the semester to go on tour, and so it ended up working out really well. And so Big River, if you don't know, is the story of Huckleberry Finn, the Mark Twain book, but it's of course set to music. So I grew up in West Virginia, and I actually did a production of it in my last year in high school. I did a production of Big River, and one of the people in that ended up, when the tour was getting ready and casting, they were looking for a gym, and a friend of mine that was in the production with me when I was in high school had worked with the director for something else and was like, hey, take a look at this kid. And of course they didn't want to see me because I was 18 at the time I was auditioning. And then, but they did. They were willing to see me because they hadn't found a Jim. And Jim is the slave that Huck helps escape in the story. And so they hadn't found a Jim. So I actually had the seediest of auditions, which was in a hotel room. But my dad literally waited right outside the door, listening in, as I now know, as I auditioned for the director and the producer, one of the producers in this hotel room, and they gave me the gig, and I went on tour, and I got to see most of the U.S., and we went through parts of Canada. My understudy, with me as 19, my understudy was at least like a solid 10 years older than me, so I'm sure he didn't like me much, but that is definitely my most memorable experience, yeah. So my most memorable theater production that I've seen would have to be, and it really comes down to when I saw this show, the timing of it, who I was at the time. And so I was probably 20, 21, and had taken a trip with my school up to Broadway, up to New York City. And so we went to see Avenue Q, and it was the timing of it that made this so important and so impactful. So like I'm getting ready to leave school, like a bunch of us are, and like this show is about that experience of leaving the safety of the education environment and going into the real world. And so like the song, What Do You Do with a BA in English, is resonating because you have people who, not everyone made it through the theater program. People switch to business majors or English majors and all over the place, and like and which is okay. It's a time where people are finding themselves and who they want to be. But this show, striking that chord was key, and it really still sticks with me. I still have that feeling of watching these characters and hearing what they're saying and being like, I can full on relate to what's going on up there with these puppets. And so plus you have like, I'm laughing my ass off the entire time. You have the incredible music, the incredible script, and then you've got me also having grown up watching Sesame Street. And so these are ticking all the boxes, and I am fully invested. And Avenue Q was an incredibly memorable performance for me to see. Well, the production that I wished I'd seen but I missed has to be and I missed it. I missed it because it premiered in 1973 on Broadway. I wasn't born yet. And the production is Raisin, which is a musical adaptation of A Raisin in the Sun, the Lorraine Hansberry play. The play's incredible. And honestly, so the way I discovered this, I needed a like 70s soulful song for an audition. I didn't want to do anything that I had in my book. I wanted to find something new. I wanted to pull something brand new out. And so I was like looking for stuff, and I found this cast recording of Raisin, which I cannot recommend enough. And the music moved me. It was incredible. And so I've still never seen a production of the show, but it won the Tony Award for Best Musical in 1974, that year's Tonys. And the show's incredible. I've never seen it. I am hereby stating my full support for a West End. Is it a transfer? Is it a transfer when it's like 40 years later? Is it still a transfer? But a West End production of Raisin that I, of course, want to be a part of. But the show's incredible. It's incredible. It's this African-American family in Chicago, 1951. If you haven't read the play, read the play, listen to the cast recording. Raisin is incredible. I wish I missed it. I wish I hadn't missed it. I wish it's still at this point would have had a chance to see the production, but one day, fingers crossed. The person that I most would like to work with, dead or alive, has to be Steve Martin. Steve Martin is one. I'm a big fan of course, his films and everything that's come along with that. I'm also a big fan of his music and everything that comes along with that, of his stand-up comedy, of the years of content he has provided just as a performer. But when you look at the things that he's written, I mean, even going back to the 1979, he wrote The Jerk, and that. I mean, is one of the things that launched him into superstardom. His plays have been incredible. The movies he's written have been incredible. The musical from a few years ago on Broadway, Bright Star, was absolutely amazing. And this is the type of mind that it's like you don't just want to work with this person only so you can experience the work, but you want to like glean as much content from them as possible, so it's not like I just want to do works by Steve Martin. I want to work with Steve Martin directly, ideally creating something new, something that he's writing. If he's writing music for it, that's awesome. If it's just a play, that's awesome as well. A film would be cool, of course, but like there's loads of people I'd love to perform with. Like there's Norm Lewis, of course, Audra McDonald, of course, Brian Stokes Mitchell, of course. Like these are my like hit list of people I'd love to be on stage with. But as far as people, if I had to pick one that I want to work with, it has to be Steve Martin. That mind, to get to be in the room with that mind and share thoughts and create together, is like, that's the real dream, baby. So Steve Martin, all the way.
Thank you for listening to Shows That Shaped Me, a podcast by What's on Stage. If you enjoyed listening, please do subscribe on iTunes so that you don't miss a single episode. Previous episodes include Rosalie Craig, Drew McConey, Lindsay Posner, and James Graham.